Now, have you had to deal with a toxic relationship in the business environment, particularly, or maybe you have had a situation where you have been taken advantage of in your business? If you have, I really want to point out that doing business is already complicated. But having someone taking advantage of you while you are doing business make it even more hard for you. So for that, it is important that you know what to do, how to identify this individual who are just there for the purpose of preying on you. There are a lot of people that are out there in the business environment. They see what you are doing. Their intention is not only to work with you, they are there to take advantage of you. That is some of the things that we'll be referring to as toxic partnership in the business environment. There are many of them out there. But do you know how to identify them? Do you know what to do when you happen to find a toxic person or a toxic partner in your business ecosystem? This is what we're going to be talking about today with Amanda.
Hi everybody, my name is Amanda Craven. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, life coach, psychologist and author. And I specialize in helping entrepreneurs and leaders break free from toxic relationships, from emotional trauma that are impacting on their life. And that can be their business life, it can be their personal life, because as an entrepreneur, if you're impacted by something, your business is going to be impacted by something. So my goal is to help my clients find joy and success, both in their business and in their personal life.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And that is actually a lot that we're going to cover today. I really love that kind of approach to that we have a lot that people are going to benefit from. Now, how we start here is that we usually spend some time talking about the guest that we have here. In this case, is you. So do you want to tell me a bit about your infancy? Where did you grow up? What do you remember of your young adolescent? Yeah.
Okay. So, currently I live in North Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I've led quite a nomadic life. I was born in London, lived in the northwest of England, studied in Birmingham. Then I moved to France for 6 years before returning to the UK and living in different cities before coming to my dream home by the sea. So this was a long-term dream that I had. My childhood was quite ordinary in many ways. Though I was a very sensitive child, and growing up in the 1970s, the world didn't really accommodate sensitive people very well. So I think that impacted on my self-confidence, on my self-esteem, and I did have mental health struggles, including depression and anxiety, through my childhood from about the age of 9 right through to my early 20s. So I think this was where my interest in mental health and helping people started to take form.
All right. Thank you so much for that sharing. So what do you remember of those, let's say, the difficult time in your life? Tell me about how the people around you sort of interacted with you, what you did to be able to come out of it, because now you are helping people to sort of overcome some of those challenges. Life is not always perfect. Life is not black and white. Sometimes I often say to people here, and what we pass through in life is what actually makes us what we become at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Because if you haven't had any experience, then you have nothing to talk about. So maybe you are just going to talk about other people.
Yeah.
Whereas because we are sort of heavy on storytelling here, we encourage people to deep down their own journey so that you reveal more about yourself as you talk to other people. So tell me more about those challenges, moment that you had, the relationship that was around you, how that may have helped you. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think I was very lucky in that I had a very loving family. My parents both loved me and my four siblings very much, and that was very clear. But we had quite a strict upbringing. Um, at school, it was a different story, and I feel that my sensitivities and my way of talking, I have quite a gentle way of talking. My voice is fairly quiet, although when I'm talking about my passions, I become animated. But as a child, I was often told that I was too sensitive, that I spoke too quietly, that I should speak up, and this definitely impacted on my self confidence at the time. But as I've come through life, I've realized that my voice is actually my superpower. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and my voice is my primary tool. And time again, people say to me, I just feel so safe when I hear you talking. I feel relaxed and I feel calm. And of course, when I'm conducting hypnotherapy sessions, then I'm doing that just using my voice because I do it over Zoom or over the phone with just using audio connections. So I can't use any other tools. I'm not in the room with the person, and it is the power of my voice. So I think that's a really important message for everybody, that things that at one point seemed to work against you because people were criticizing, they didn't like it, they made me feel embarrassed about my quiet voice. Now, this voice, as I say, is my superpower and is enabling me to really help people transform their own lives.
So now your voice have become your tool of engagement.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is really very interesting.
Mm, yeah.
All right. So did you have to develop this your ability to really hone in on your voice? Or do you at what point did you realize that your voice, because okay, your voice can actually be looked upon in different ways. Here we tell people to own their voice. By that we're
Mm,
telling people to own their story.
yes.
Then of course that also include being able to use your voice to talk,
Mm,
to communicate, to say what you have inside of you, because nobody is able to know what is in your mind until you express it. So your mouth in this case and your voice have become a powerful instrument that we can talk about, either in storytelling or in your case now as a hypnotherapist.
mm,
So it becomes very important in this sense. So what I'm sort of curious about is at what point did you realize that you have this superpower? So that then, of course, I want to imagine and believe that you have to develop it over time.
mhm,
So help me
mm.
understand that.
Right. Well, I think it's a combination of things coming together. So obviously, I've always had my voice throughout my life, and it's been a gentle, expressive voice. I've had the ability to listen to people, to connect with people. And I think that sensitivity that I mentioned, and being an empath, you might like to say, or a highly sensitive person, again, has its disadvantages in a busy world where people are shouting to get noticed. But it also is, in a way, another set of superpowers, because when we listen, and it's only when we listen that we can understand other people, we can connect with them, because we're listening to their story and we're able to put ourselves in their shoes. So these are traits that I would say I've had all my life. And then as I moved through adult life and did different careers, my initial university training was in languages, French and German. And as I say, I went to live in France. I went to teach English as a foreign language. and then became manager of a group of language centres. So again, I suppose I was using my voice initially to teach and to help people learn the English language, and then using my voice to manage people in my team and to get the best out of them. And I had a few other jobs until I was in my early 30s, and I set up my first business, which was in fact my own language school for children. So again, lots of emphasis on the communication. But fast forward 10 years, during which time I had my 3 beautiful daughters, I I was met with a few challenges during my pregnancies and during the births, so that I actually turned to hypnobirthing for the birth of my 3rd daughter. So I guess that was my first encounter with any form of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Um, and that was very useful. It helped me overcome a lot of fears that had grown out of the previous birth traumas. Fast forward another couple of years, and I was faced with another huge challenge in my life, which was being diagnosed with cancer, with breast cancer. And this was a huge shock to me. I had no risk factors, no family history, and my youngest daughter was still just 1 year old at that time. So it was big, it was huge. And I reached out to a hypnotherapist to help me with my fears and to help me deal with the surgery I needed to undertake, and then the following treatment. And that enabled me to deal with this really, really difficult situation. So that was my second touch point with hypnotherapy, and becoming aware of the power of somebody's voice to guide you and to support you, to make you realize that you're not alone. So once I'd fully recovered from my cancer and had got back on my feet, found my energy, got my mojo back, I was looking around for something fresh to do. I wanted a fresh start. And I decided that I would train as a clinical hypnotherapist. So I travelled to another city once a month for a few days each month. And I felt like I'd come home. Everything came together. And this job, if you want to call it that, I feel it's much more than that. It's a vocation, really, of being a hypnotherapist, enabled me to use all the traumas, all the adversities that I had experienced from at that point. I'd been through a very difficult divorce. I'd been through cancer. I'd lost my mum at a relatively young age to cancer, and a whole host of other stuff that life can throw at you. And so I realized that I could use this not to tell people about it, not to tell my clients about my story, but to feed into my understanding and my ability to connect with my clients. And it kind of brought everything together. And I realized that it was something I was good at. It just came naturally to me, using my voice to take people on journeys, to tell stories, to encourage people to allow their own stories to emerge from within themselves. And I graduated from that program as the only person with a distinction. And I could see that my mentor saw something in me that until that point I hadn't been able to see in myself. So it was just a really beautiful coming together of all those things and using my voice.
Thank you so much for that sharing. That is really very important. Thank you. You see, without you using your voice now, I couldn't know what you are having in your mind. And for having opened your mouth now to talk, We don't have a world in front of us that is open. Now we can travel any angle, we can travel anywhere. I've been a podcaster for a number of years. I can guarantee you that we could actually stay here for more than 3 hours just talking, because because there is a lot of things that we could talk about based on what you have said so far, and that is really very important. Of course, you are working in this area, you perfectly understand what I'm talking about.
Mm.
All right, now let's take one bite like this. You are an expert in hypnotherapist, a clinical hypnotherapist. That is who you are. Now,
Yes.
explain that to us. What does that mean?
Okay. So, a clinical hypnotherapist is somebody who harnesses the state of hypnosis, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a few moments. Who harnesses the state of hypnosis for therapeutic purposes to help people. There are different types and styles and techniques, modalities within the realm of hypnotherapy, going from the very basic sort of light touch, what we call suggestion hypnosis, where you may get into a relaxed state, and then suggestions are made that are agreeable to you, that you want to take on board, such as you are relaxed, you're feeling confident about a certain event, and this technique can create minor shifts that can help you get over a certain difficulty. But once we start talking about healing deeper wounds, for example, childhood trauma or the trauma resulting from toxic relationships, then we need to use to harness the power of a deeper state of hypnosis. So let me explain a little bit about hypnosis itself, because quite often when you mention that you're a hypnotherapist or that you practice clinical hypnosis, people immediately remember a show they saw on TV or maybe a live show where the stage hypnotist was making people, apparently making them pretend to play instruments or quack like a duck or do something funny and silly. And so people have this image that a hypnotist of any sort is somebody who can control the mind of another person and who can make them do something. But this isn't the case. The state of hypnosis is a natural state that we all dip in and out of each and every day. It's the state of mind that you will experience if you are really engrossed in a movie and you think you're there, you're in with the characters, and you lose yourself to a degree, to the point that you don't consciously think about where you are, whether you're sitting in your living room or in a cinema. And maybe if somebody were to call your name, you may not hear them, first of all, because you are so in the moment. You may also get into that state of mind when you're reading a book and really engrossed in the storyline of that. It can happen to people when they're driving or traveling, and they may suddenly find themselves at their destination and think, oh my goodness, I don't remember the last part of the journey. And if you're driving, you might think, wow, that could have been dangerous. I wasn't aware of what I was doing. But actually, you were aware of what you were doing, and had something happened, had somebody run out in front of your car, for example, you would have come out of that deep reflective state and you would have responded. And it's the same with hypnosis. We go inside, we go into our subconscious mind. In hypnotherapy, it's guided. A hypnotherapist will guide you into that state so that at that moment you are able to access memories or wounds or deep thoughts, whatever is going on for you, that you're there to work through. But coming back to the question of control, I do not control my clients' thoughts or where they go when they are in that state, no more than a stage hypnotist controls the people who go up on the stage. It may appear like they are being controlled, but actually, you can't make somebody do something that in their heart of hearts they don't want to do or they don't agree with. So, in the case of my clients, they are there because they want to be there, and we have an agreement that they are going to be open to seeing what emerges and working together through those things. In the case of the stage hypnotist, then the people who go up onto the stage, they have been pre-selected through some discrete testing that has gone on before that moment of going on stage. And even if you see somebody and you think, oh, they're normally very shy and quiet, and now they're up on the stage and looking very extrovert, it means that something inside of them wants to be on that stage. They are not being forced to do something that they don't want to do. So there is no control, but there is, where it is desired, where there is an openness, there is guidance to, in my therapeutic case, to working through what it is, the root causes of that unwanted behavior, those unwanted responses, those things that are blocking somebody from achieving that joy and success in their life, in their business.
Thank you so much for that, Amanda. I appreciate your sharing. It is really important. Here, we really go deep in the conversation because that is what it is. Obehi Podcast, we really do an in-depth conversation because that is, we're not in haste here. We're not in haste to come in. We're not in haste to go out. Of course, if a client were to tell me, oh, I'm in haste, I need to go, that is also permissive. So we don't force any person to say what they don't have to say or do what they don't have to do. But when we are sort of in tune, we can go as much as we want. All right. Now, talking of hypnosis, of course, we'll come back to toxic relationship just now in business environment because that is the two things that actually are controlling the conversation today. Now, you did say that you don't control your client. Okay, I get that perfectly. But now, say, from what you understand about hypnosis, because this is your main area, you are an expert in hypnosis, do you have the possibility of able to control the person in front of you? Say maybe, for example, the person consent to that. Are you able, with your knowledge of hypnosis, able to do that? Or you are just not able to do that because of your ethics or things like that?
Yeah, it wouldn't, it's not something I've tried, and you're quite right. It wouldn't be ethical to attempt to control another person. And my work is very much teamwork. I work with my clients. I don't do hypnosis to my clients. Together, we harness the power of hypnotherapy, of hypnosis, to go beneath the conscious layer of thinking. Quite often, I describe the mind in like a circle. If you picture it as a whole circle, the top part of that circle, 5 to 10% only, represents their conscious mind. The rest is therefore the subconscious. Right at the bottom, we have what I call the deep subconscious, and that can be different sizes according to the amount of experiences and stuff that we have suppressed and stuffed down into that deep subconscious. So, what I require from my clients is permission to just explore and to see what comes up. And we're a bit like detectives. The symptoms that a client may present with, which could be I keep attracting toxic business partners or collaborators or romantic partners, or it could be a phobia that they have. Maybe they have a fear of public speaking. It could be any number of things, and it can be many things that are the symptoms. So in hypnotherapy, we don't just focus on the symptoms. Excuse me. We use those symptoms as a starting point. And then when the client is in a relaxed state of body and mind, where they're not distracted by what may be going on in the rest of their life or outside of the room, whatever busyness might be there, they are just inwardly focused and calm. And they are able to follow the thread. So we take the symptom and we'll say, okay, let's go and find another moment in time when you felt this way, when you had this response or this reaction. And we will just follow that back in time and explore what was going on then. Sometimes we need to go even further back. The key age for a lot of significant events taking place is 7, the age of 7. So quite often we need to go back before the age of 7. So in answer to your question, I have to have permission or agreement from my client that they are going to be open to whatever may emerge, and together we'll work through that. I have in the past, especially when I first started, had people saying, for example, yes, this happened and it was traumatic, but I've dealt with it. I don't want to go there anymore. I don't want to discuss it. And as a newly qualified hypnotherapist, I still tried to work with them, but it wasn't successful. And now, with all my experience, I know that if somebody is putting up any form of barrier and saying, yeah, I just want to work on this, and I don't want to talk about my childhood, or I don't want to talk about this thing, then it's not going to work in any meaningful, deep, and long-lasting way. I maybe gone off on a tangent there, Obehi. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. So before we move to the rest of the conversation, I would still like to ask you one question related to this, so I sort of can clarify the question a little bit further. Then, of course, we'll move on further from that. Now, say maybe, for example, okay, the question can go two ways. Say maybe, for example, you have you are commissioned by the state, no? Because there is a threat to the state. Okay, let's say a community, a society, because usually what we do as a specialist for us to be able to survive is that we identify what is a problem that can be a problem for everybody. We find a solution to it. No, we don't leave the solution to come on its own. So maybe, for example, there is a hidden criminal that is in the society that is threatening the life of the community. And it says, of course, I'm not saying this is what you will do or what you can do, but I'm talking of what is possible within the realm of hypnosis. Okay, that is actually the basis of the question. Now, you are commissioned by whoever is responsible for the society to try and find out what is in the mind of this individual. Now, option A, this individual allow you to go inside his mind to find out what is actually making him to do this. It's possible that he or she is not in control. So for this, he want you to help him or her to find out. Then option B, this individual doesn't want you to find out what is inside, but the society wants you to find out because there is a danger to the community if they don't know what is happening. In this case, do the work of hypnotherapists have the possibility of able to go inside the mind of this individual and reveal something?
So in your second scenario, in option B, no, it wouldn't be possible, because if they are against it, then they are the voice to revealing what is inside. So if they're saying, I don't want this, and I'm not going to do it, you absolutely can't. There is no way that you could find out what is going on in their mind. You need the agreement, the permission of the individual for the use of hypnosis.
All right. Of course, option B is certainly, option A will certainly be ruled out now, because you cannot penetrate the wall in that sense.
No, but option A, if they say, I don't know why I'm doing this crime, and they are willing and open for you to help them uncover the root cause. And in the majority of criminal minds, in the majority of criminals, you will find trauma in their life, trauma that has triggered a certain behavior, certain reaction, defenses, aggressive techniques, aggressive attitudes. If you, I mean, there are a lot of programs on the TV at the moment. I'm sure you've got them in Italy as well as here in the UK and all over the world. Things like Criminal Minds, and in the minds of serial killers. If you look at those profiles and go back into their early lives, you will inevitably find childhood trauma. Not 100% of the time, but the majority of cases will reveal childhood trauma at the root of that behavior.
Thank you for that. I promise this is the last question I will ask on this side before we move on to the next one.
No, you fire away. I love talking about it.
All right. Now, you see, after the attack on World Trade Center, the American government, let's say most of the Western government, decide to tighten their security, but also tighten the way that they get information out from whoever they manage to get hold of or suspect of being, because they don't want another World Trade Center to go down. No? All right. Let's say, for example, you understand that there is the case that have become very famous in the United States, no, of the torture, the Guantanamo Bay, and the rest of it, no. Because I'm trying to imagine if, because they do the torture because maybe they are not able to get information out from the people. Because if you could have an instrument to know what you want to know, then you don't need to torture the flesh. Because what you are doing to the flesh is to make the mind connect. You are telling the individual, hey, I'm going to shoot you. Then the person don't want to die, then they reveal the information. Then you are cutting the hand. You are really doing all this animalistic way of torturing the human being because you want the human being to succumb, so that you break down his psychology, so that they can then reveal the information that you want. Then you might then set him free, or you can still kill him if you want to, depending on who you are. So I am trying to see if there is a possibility that a hypnotherapist or those who work in the mind could help maybe the state or the police in this sense to find what is happening in the mind of the people, even without the people revealing it. Because if you don't torture them, they believe. If you don't torture them, they will not reveal the information. That is why they are torturing them. Maybe there is another way to do it without torturing them and making them go through this punishment and all of that. That is actually the area I'm trying to navigate there. And then, of course, we move beyond that. We are not really here in those areas. But since we are talking about hypnotherapists, and the ability to be able to either help an individual, but to know what is happening in the mind of a person, I will try to see if that could actually be maybe what the police will use sometime, or what the state will use sometime to be able to get into the mind of the individual, even though that individual might not permit it in the initial. So we can just totally rule that out, or is this something that is tried or can be tried?
Well, it comes back to that question of consent and openness. And because the mind and the brain are such complex entities that even the most advanced neuroscientists and psychiatrists don't understand most of it. They understand little portions. But the one thing that is clear is that only an individual can truly have control over their mind, and therefore only each individual can deny or agree to accessing their thoughts. So there's no there's no way that you can this isn't as a hypnotherapist, but I'm sure there are ways, and people are trained, in special branches of governments all over the world are trained in questioning and interrogation techniques that may be covert as well as overt, and drawing out information. But you will only obtain information that a person wants to release. So yeah, interesting questions, Obehi. I've never been asked these sorts of questions before on a podcast, but thought-provoking.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I really do. Anyway, I'm not going beyond that. That is fine. Now, how would you describe a toxic relationship in a business environment? Because that is the second part of the conversation. And of course, we're going to go on and on hypnotherapist in business and toxic relationship in business. How would you describe it? Because that is what we are here for.
Okay. So I would say that the most common toxic relationship in business and in our personal lives, and as I said before, when you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, excuse me, a leader, then whatever happens in our personal life impacts on us as a person. So it's just as important and just as valid if there is a toxic relationship going on in the background of a business person, just as important as a toxic relationship actually in the business, maybe between two founders, maybe between a leader and a collaborator, maybe between a leader and somebody in their team, or between two team members. So very important and potentially very damaging to the bottom line of a business. So the most common form of toxic relationship is often between a covert narcissist and their chosen target. So a covert narcissist is not somebody you would immediately label as a narcissist. So when we say narcissist, and it's a word that's probably overused at the moment, quite often in the wrong context, but it's not something that we truly know enough about, and I think a lot more education needs to take place. So an overt narcissist is somebody who may appear larger than life. They are very opinionated. They believe they are always right. They want things done their way. They're probably quite loud, and they're quite easy to spot. And of course, you do get overt narcissists in leadership positions, government positions, the leaders of governments and countries. But they're easy to spot, and if you want to avoid them, you can see where they are, and you can avoid them more easily than you can a covert narcissist. So a covert narcissist wants the same things as a classic or overt narcissist. So they want power, they want control, they want to be admired and adored. but they will go about it in a whole different way. So whereas your overt narcissist will just put themselves out there and openly ask for people to big them up and to support them, to adore them, a covert narcissist will not do it in such an obvious way, in such a general way, but they will target individuals who they work out are a good potential supply of their narcissistic needs. So this could be, for example, somebody who wants to control one person in the team, or if you have a team of investors, there may be one who is behaving in quite a manipulative way, but in such a way they are maybe targeting one person on the board or just the CEO, and the others don't even realize, because the way they present to everybody else is charismatic, charming, funny, intelligent, kind, a pillar of society, a pillar of the community. But behind the scenes, in this one-on-one relationship with the person they have chosen to be their target, they can be making life really difficult. But it's difficult for the victim, let's call them, to first of all to know what's happening, because it's done over time and it's done in this very manipulative way. And if that target or the victim starts to talk to other people and say, they did this, or I created something and they took all the credit, the other people are going to say, what? You're kidding. They're a really great person, really great guy, really great girl. They wouldn't do that. So the victim becomes quite isolated. And one of the characteristics of a covert narcissist is using something called gaslighting, which again is something that is talked about quite a lot. Not always very well understood, I don't think. But gaslighting is when one person makes another person question their memory, their sanity, their ability to make judgments, just by planting seeds of doubt, or by denying that something happened, or that the narcissist said or did something. They will outright lie about it or deny it. So you have this person, this target, who are becoming really confused. Nobody else sees the narcissist in the way that they do, and they begin to doubt themselves. And a narcissistic person can be very charming and charismatic, even to their victim, which creates even more confusion. So it's not as if they are being evil or manipulative or obviously controlling all the time. It's woven together, the moments of control, manipulation, gaslighting, with some perfectly pleasant, reasonable, joyful moments. So it's a real journey. And by the time somebody realizes they're in a toxic relationship, whether it's a business partnership or any of the other types of relationships I mentioned before, they can feel really stuck and then isolated because people around them can't see what's going on.
This way, the narcissists appear to be very intelligent, to have planned everything out, to know what is going to happen to their partner, and that make them to be one step ahead of the game, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So when businesses find themselves in a situation like this, what should they do? I mean, how do you deal with a toxic relationship within the area of business? How do you
Mm.
deal with it?
Yeah, well, it's going to depend on that business relationship. Um, for example, if you are the founder or CEO of a business, and you've brought somebody new into your team, maybe as a team leader in some sort of senior role, and you are noticing that there is something awry. And I just sort of kind of want to put this in brackets, that we have a gut feeling about people, all of us. Some people are more sensitive and more in tune, but all of us do have a gut feeling. The problem with us, particularly in the Western countries, we override our gut feeling a lot instead of listening to it. But if we allow ourselves to use our gut feeling, then it will let us know when something is off, when something isn't quite right. So I think that the first thing that applies to everybody is listen to your gut feeling. Listen to what your heart is telling you. Listen to what your gut is telling you. There are neurons in these parts of our body, the same neurons, the same nerve cells that exist in our brain, and they're there for a reason. They're there to guide us and to keep us safe. So coming back to the scenario of the founder who's employed somebody, and they're starting to feel that something is off. Maybe they're noticing some sort of difficulties in the relationships between this senior manager and other managers, or another manager who they've worked with for a long time, and they're noticing that there is tension, there is conflict. Maybe one or more of the other managers might say to you, look, this guy is just taking the credit for the work that we've done. They're sabotaging our meetings, or whatever it may be. That information plus your gut reaction means that you need to take action. So don't think that it's going to go away and sort itself out. And you need to be direct. The narcissist will crave approval and appreciation, and will want to take credit for a lot of stuff. So don't be tempted to appease them, to walk on eggshells in order to keep the peace, because that is how a narcissist is able to thrive, because they maybe have a bit of an explosive personality, or maybe they're just going to go quiet and create an atmosphere. If they're challenged, they hate to be challenged. They hate being found out that they're wrong about something. But as the founder, the leader of an organization, it will be your duty to call them out and to have a frank and direct discussion and say, look, this was teamwork. It's not just for you to take the credit for this project, for example, and just be quite clear. If you continue doing that, then this person is going to realize that they are not going to get the supply that they need in that organization. So they will either play ball within their working relationship with you and get their supply from another source outside of your business, or they will leave and go somewhere else. But you can't pretend it's not happening. You need to call them out. You need to be honest. You need to trust your gut instincts about a person.
So it means that it is not a hopeless situation if you happen to find yourself in a toxic environment in business, because business in itself is already very complicated. No, it's already
Sure.
very complicated. So now having to deal with a toxic relationship in business, make it even complex. But I like the way that you attack that. That there is a way out now. So you just need to open your eyes and know what you're doing, being able to, of course, like you are doing in every other area of your business, calculating, making sure that you are making the right decision about or maybe who you are serving, but also make sure you make the right decision about with whom you are serving.
Yes.
This way, you will come out better in it instead of being taken advantage of. Because in business, there are a lot of people that want to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
So it's a game. It's a game.
Yes, yeah, and I would say that it's a good reminder to all of us to have our T's and C's in place to make sure that contracts are drawn up in a way that supports your business, so that you have, for example, a trial period at the beginning of a working relationship with anybody. That's not to say that a narcissist won't keep quiet and toe the line for the first 3 months and then reveal themselves later. That, of course, that can happen. But you need to protect yourself as much as possible and to protect your business and your business interests, so that if you do need to take action, you have a robust strategy behind you, because in some cases you will need to develop an exit strategy, and that will be the only solution. So you need to make sure that your systems are in place and are robust, and you have the appropriate legal support behind you.
All right. Thank you for that. That is a good advice. That is a good advice.
Yeah.
All right, Amanda. Now, tell me this. You are an expert in hypnotherapy. You are a hypnotherapist, a clinical hypnotherapist. Let me be clear on that. Now, with your knowledge of hypnotherapy, how would you deal with a narcissist or a toxic relationship in business? By that, of course, I'm just saying, because you have this extra knowledge, how would that help you to deal with this situation? Basically, imagining that you are in business with somebody, and because you have this advanced knowledge of able to discern certain situation, you have studied this individual, you know this is who he or she is in your business. I mean, how would you deal with it? And pay attention that you are different from an average person. I'm not telling you to tell me how an average person will deal with it. I'm saying, how would you deal with it because you have an advanced knowledge, because you are a clinical hypnotherapist. Not everybody is a clinical hypnotherapist. That is why I'm specifically saying, how would you deal with it knowing what you know?
Right. Okay. So if I came into contact with a narcissist, being the founder of my business, how I would deal with them, is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to put it out there that I have had not one but two marriages to covert narcissists. They both happened, or the marriages both happened before I became a clinical hypnotherapist. But I am a reasonably intelligent person. I am aware. I've been on this planet for a few decades, but it still took me a long time to realize that these people were narcissists. Now, during my first marriage, I'd never heard of narcissist or covert narcissist. It was just a toxic relationship, a very difficult relationship. And I couldn't make it work, but I didn't know why. I was able to communicate with everybody else, but not with this person. And my second marriage began just after I'd had cancer. I was between businesses. I was in a very vulnerable situation. I was actually vulnerable when I met my first husband as well, because my mother was dying of cancer and subsequently died from a rare form of cancer that really rocked my world. And I'm saying that because more often than not, there is a vulnerability in you or your business when a narcissist comes into your life or your business. That is really important to know, because maybe something has happened. It might be something temporary, or it might be that you have a history of trauma yourself. But there needs to be a bit like the fault, when an earthquake takes place and there are faults there already. The vulnerability in you or in your business or both is like that fault line, and then the narcissist comes in like the earthquake and just follows that line through. So when we have awareness of how and why we may be open, our business may be open to a narcissist, that can help us. I had no knowledge of this at the beginning of these two marriages. So that's one thing to be aware of. And I think it's, generally speaking, it is awareness, having awareness, understanding what those traits look like. I've already mentioned the gaslighting, the difficulty they have in accepting any form of criticism, the need to be admired, even adored, that need to manipulate and control. These are just a few of the traits. And to anybody who's watching, Obehi, I'd love to give you a link so that people can get my free guide. I'll just find the front of it if I can.
Yeah.
My free guide, 15 signs your partner, parent, or sibling, and this applies to business relations as well, are a covert narcissist. So I'll give that to you when we finished our conversation, and that can help people. It goes into more detail into all those traits. So I didn't know about all of this when I entered into both of my marriages, but I was vulnerable. I'm somebody who's very optimistic, who likes to believe the best in people. So all these traits can mean that you are a potentially good target for a narcissist, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship. So now, with my awareness, I am very tuned in. And if I have contact with a narcissist, covert or an overt narcissist, then they won't get into my inner world. I won't collaborate with them. I would not employ them. I would not take them into my team, because I now have all that information, knowledge, and experience. I've got my firewall that will protect me. And that's what I want to do for other people out there. I want to share this information so that people can be protected, because the damage is immense, whether it's to your business, to your bottom line, or whether it's to your personal life and there's heartache in there. It can be immense. And a conversation I had recently with the CEO of a huge fintech company got really pushed into a corner by narcissistic business partners. That was a very, very tricky situation to get out of. And it took an immense toll on this person's mental health. They've been in business for decades. It wasn't their first rodeo, but they were completely taken aback and caught off guard by this toxic relationship. And it didn't just impact their business and their bottom line, it impacted them personally. And as I say, impacted their mental health.
Thank you so much
Again,
for
I
that.
don't know if I've gone off on too
No,
many
no, 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 no,
tangents.
no, no, no. It's perfect.
Does
No,
that answer your question?
no, it's perfectly fine. I got it. It's clear. It's clear. Of course, I just directed that question to you because you are different from an average person because of your advanced knowledge in a hypnotherapist. So I wanted you to respond to that, and you did perfectly well. So I appreciate that. Now, before we were talking about hypnotherapy, you did made mention of suggestion hypnotherapy.
Mm.
So now, I want you to help me understand how that can be helpful in the area of business. Say maybe, for example, you teach a business owner about that tactics, about that understanding. How would that be helpful in his or her business?
Okay. So, yeah, hypnotherapy, suggestion hypnosis is probably the lightest form of hypnotherapy, and it's probably the most widely practiced. There are many hypnotherapists out there who will only do suggestion hypnosis, and quite a lot of them will use scripts so that once their client has got their eyes closed, then the therapist will read from the script. That's not the way I was taught, and it's not the way I have ever worked. But I do sometimes use suggestion hypnosis to reinforce ideas that the client already has. And it's quite often along the topic of self-confidence, for example, where somebody has done a lot of preparation for a presentation or a big meeting that they're about to chair or to speak at, but they're just lacking in confidence that they're going to be able to deliver and sound as knowledgeable as they actually are. So we can use suggestion hypnosis just to go into that relaxed state of body and mind and remind the person of their expertise, remind them that they are an amazing contributor, that they're not pretending they're a guru with all the answers to all the questions, and just to do what it takes to reinforce their their own confidence that they deserve to have in what they're about to do or to deliver. But if somebody comes to me and they have a very deep rooted uh, cause of a low self esteem or a complete lack of self confidence, then we need to go much deeper and we need to find out what we call the initial sensitizing events. What happened early on in that person's life that meant that they lost their healthy level of self-esteem or their level of self-confidence, because on that topic we all come into this world with a healthy, fully formed self-esteem. We are born saying, ta-da, I'm here, love me, look after me, feed me, nourish me, care for me, and we believe that we deserve those things. It's what happens to us in life after that moment that will either reinforce our self esteem or detract from it, diminish our self esteem. So, in those cases, we need to go deep in order to repair those wounds, to heal those hurts. And then we can work back up to the top and finish with that suggestion hypnosis and that reinforcement that you are enough. So the two levels there, we can work on self-confidence by just doing some suggestion hypnosis. If the person is almost there, they're just having the jitters because this is a particularly important meeting or project that their whole business is depending on, or that the stakes are very high. But if this is a chronic lack of self-confidence or low self-esteem, then suggestion hypnosis is just like trying to put a plaster on a broken bone with an open wound. It's just not going to cut it, and certainly won't last for any length of time.
You said we need to go deep. I like that a lot. The other day I was interviewing a guest here who at a point as if maybe he wanted to apologize for going deep. I said, no. That is where you need to go. That is where we need to be. You need to go deep if we want to help people to understand. I was telling you before here, we are not in haste. We take the time to explain things to people so that they can understand.
Yes.
There is nothing of substance that you can get on the surface. No. If you want to get anything real substantial, you need to go deep.
Absolutely, yeah. I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, talking of suggestion and talking of the subconscious, there is a thought that I was having in mind. Is it possible that you could actually reprogram your mind or reprogram somebody's mind? You see, for a very long time, people have been talking of the idea of brainwash. But sometimes we don't really understand it. People think maybe you need to take a soap and wash yourself, but it's not that. So it is with all this technology that we have today, talking of neuro-linguistic programming and the rest of it, through hypnosis, is it possible that somebody can actually reprogram his mind or get somebody else reprogram his mind? Help me understand that.
Okay. So again, we have to have a willingness on the part of the individual to change their mind or their behavior. Now, if we're talking about a young person, a child who is being brought up in a very radical setting, whatever part of the world or culture or radical setting we're talking about, it doesn't matter. That child, as the younger they are, the more vulnerable they are, and the easier it is to plant ideas and ideologies that aren't their own. But in an adult, there has to be a willingness to take on those ideas. Now, it can happen in many different ways, but in hypnotherapy, if somebody has always been very quiet and very shy, but they have something inside of them that they want to share with the world. They have a message. They have lessons that they have learned and they want to help other people listen. They may seek help in order to find their voice, to release their voice, coming back to our very earliest part of this conversation. And so they are wanting to change. They are wanting to be able to use their voice to stand up, to address big crowds, to talk in person or to talk on webinars, whatever it may be. So that change from a very quiet, introverted person who lacks self-belief to somebody who is going to stand and do a TED talk and talk to huge stadiums of people can absolutely happen, because that person wants it. And you need to go as deep as you need to unlock their voice. Again, just as I said, we are all born into this world with a healthy level of self-esteem. We are all born with a voice, that wants to tell our story, that wants to communicate with other people. So you mentioned NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. which again is one of the many tools and techniques that I weave into my hypnotherapy sessions. And it's very powerful because there we're using metaphors, we're using images, and that's how our brain works. It doesn't actually work with individual words. It works with concepts, with images, and with memories. If we can liken something to a memory, then it can attach itself more easily. There's also a lot of talk about neuroplasticity, and this is the ability of the brain to evolve and to change, and for those neural pathways within our brain to change. And they absolutely can, just because in our early years we were taught to do something in a certain way. It doesn't mean that in adulthood we can't learn to do it in a different way. And we can do that with things and habits as well as with thought processes. Again, as long as the work is in alignment with the core beliefs and values and desires of your client, of the person.
Thank you so much for that, Amanda. I appreciate that. I really do. All right, here I think I have one or two more questions to ask regarding this, because it's also very fundamentally important for those that are listening to us. Because of course we are talking about how our mind works here. I want to believe, I think I've said it a couple of times, that our mind appears to be one of the most important things in the entire universe. Sometimes it's the one that we talk less about. But you see, everything that we see in the world, I mean, literally everything that we have created, at least what that we have done, because our creation is nothing more than mixing up things, manipulation, and changing things, no? that is what it is, no? Which also means that we first of all have it in our mind before we can bring it to life. You can either talk of maybe the building of the airplane, because at the time, the people who started to work on the idea, because they first of all need to work on the idea before they talk of the project. They didn't see anything that they could copy. Of course, if you take of train today, I will say, yeah, I know the train, I know the London train station, but there was a time there was no train at all. So somebody have to imagine how that will be. And because the person believed that is imagination, it come to life. And now we can see it. But now we talk of chat, GTP, AI, and the different form of AI that we have today. Some people will sit down and think, this is the end, this is the end. There cannot be anything deeper than this. No, we are just starting. We are just starting. It doesn't mean because it's not here now, doesn't mean nothing is good. You can't say this is everything we can do. No, we are just barely even starting, because our mind is not yet tired. We can build the kind of world that we want to live in. It is possible for us. It doesn't necessarily mean that we must continue to till the ground like our ancestors have done. That is not what it means. We can take the idea that they once had, but we can do it differently.
Yes.
So in the question of the mind, I think we should talk about it a lot, because some people don't even think it is important to do that, because just let others think for us. But what does that mean? Because I believe that idea, knowledge are all neutral. It depends on how you use it. I know that, for example, in the past or even in the future too, big government that want to go extra mile, we use some of this knowledge for their own mission. Yes, but that is not why the idea exists. The Nazis also use a lot of technology, a lot of scientific research to be able to carry out what they carried out. But Nazism or genocide is not synonymous to science or technology. If you have a knife, the knife was not designed for you to kill. It was designed for you to do work that maybe you want to cut apple and things like that. But you can also use it to kill somebody. You don't need to blame it on the knife. Blame it on the human being, because the knife on itself It's just like every other tool. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So coming back again, I'm trying to understand this. How does it work? This programming the human mind. Again, this is all neutral from where I can see it. If a wrong person is doing it, the result is wrong. If a right person is doing it, the result is right. Is right. So the question I'm literally asking is, how do you program somebody's mind? How does it work?
Oh my goodness. You are going deep with these questions today. So within the concept of hypnotherapy, we can remove those limitations and those limiting beliefs, those limiting self-beliefs that have kept somebody small, that has kept somebody's business small, because maybe they haven't felt that they could grow it. Maybe they didn't feel that they deserved to make a lot of money. It can be many reasons why they felt trapped and small. So in hypnotherapy, we can release those limitations. And I say to my clients, when they are ready to step into their new chapter, that not even the sky is the limit. And we use the state of hypnosis to allow them to dream as big as they want. And I actually created a book on setting goals to help my clients move forward. Once we've done the healing work and the growing, then we're ready to set those goals and to step into our future. And I'll just show you. So I don't know if you can see that
Yeah, I can see it.
on the screen. So this book and the tool is called the Power Tool for goals, for life goals. And my aim is to replace SMART goals with powerful goals. And the word power, just as the word smart represents different stages, the first one, and this is why I've thought of this with your question, is picture your goals. So the P for picture your goals. O, to take one step at a time. W, when do you want this to happen? When are you going to start? When is each step going to take place? E, evaluate. How's it going? Is this approach working? Do you need to change something? And R, for you to think about your reason. Why are you trying to do this? Because if it's not 100% for you, if it's because somebody has said you should be doing this, or somebody else has said you ought to be doing something else, then you're not connected enough to it and it's not going to last. It's not your passion. But that first step, picture, is really, really important. And I did a lot of research into what you were saying, Obehi, about things didn't exist until they existed in somebody's mind. And I talk about Elon Musk and the Tesla cars. He sold in inverted commas, I don't know how many hundreds of Tesla cars 2 years before they actually existed, because he had this concept, he had this idea in his mind that he communicated to people, and they were laying down $100,000 for thin air at that point. There was nothing for them to buy, but they were paying money because they believed in his vision, in his dream. The same with Steve Jobs and the amazing Apple products that he conceived. They were just in his head for a long time, but people were still buying into his visions. And this is how we've gone on for centuries. Somebody has to think of something before it can be created and before it can become reality. But we all have that capacity to imagine our life, imagine, picture our business in 1 year, 5 years' time, how we are going to be, how we are going to look, who we are going to be talking to, the number of people we are going to be serving through our business. And we can dream as big as we want to. There need to be action steps behind that, pushing towards us. It's not just doing a vision board or wishful thinking and then sitting back and waiting for it to happen. There has to also be action. But harnessing the power of our mind to dream as big as we want to, I think is an amazing human capacity.
Absolutely. 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 This is something that we really do spend a lot of time talking about on our storytelling series. I don't know if you have ever come to listen to our LinkedIn audio event, because this is what we really spend time talking about there.
All right. Okay. I haven't managed to catch one yet. I think it's been clashing with something else. But I think that, is it Tuesdays you do that?
Yeah, but anyway, we also have one. That is one we have tomorrow now, for example. We're going to, we do have one on storytelling for African diaspora, but we have storytelling on business. And they will also have another storytelling for on the tips about storytelling. So we have different ones that are available out there. No, what I really wanted to point out there really is when you were talking of Elon Musk and also Steve Jobs just now, you could see the power of story in that. In that they have told a story. It doesn't exist here, but they have told a story of what is possible in the future, and people are buying into it. Now, I want somebody to pay attention to that. Do you think the chimpanzee does that? They don't do that. Do you think the birds in the air do that?
No.
But because we human beings are really powerful. I want to go back again to the beginning of this podcast. Your voice. If you know how to use your voice very well, you could actually change the world.
Yeah.
It is powerful. The way that we are able to verbalize our innermost thought, what is going on in our head, we can communicate it to somebody else. The person can understand it and thereby sense the emotion, what is in our mind, and transfer it into that individual. We can be one-on-one and we are moving towards a direction. If we agree, and that is how we are moving, even the mountain is too small for us to move, we can literally move the mountain and sit it somewhere else. Because we as a people have decided to do that because we believe in the vision that it is possible. Therefore, the biggest challenge that we have is to believe that it is possible. Because if we believe that it is possible, then it is possible.
Yes. Yeah.
If we believe that it is not possible, then it is not possible. It has nothing to do with nothing else than us. What do we believe it is?
It is very powerful. And I think sometimes we take our own inner power for granted. But yeah, we have an amazingly developed brain with in humans, we have a very large prefrontal cortex, which is where all our executive decisions and the creativity is housed. And yeah, the capacity of this is barely tapped into. There is so much more that can be done. And compared to the animal world, their prefrontal cortex is either very small or they're non-existent. So yeah, I think we forget how unique and how potentially powerful our brain and our mind is.
Maybe we are beginning to leverage it. I think the brain is called the last frontier. That is what we need to explore, because with that, we are able to do anything we want to do. We don't have any limitation, and that is a powerful thing to realize. And of course, it doesn't mean that if we know that now we are going to become robots. That is not what it means. Is that we, human beings, are the ones that are creating robots. Robots are for us. They are not going
mm,
to fight us because we are the developer of the tools.
mm, mm,
You are the human being. You have your mind. Your mind is the most powerful instrument that you can have. That
mm,
is why I think somebody said the mind is a terrible thing to lose. Don't lose your mind.
mm, mm. Yeah.
All right. Now let's go back to toxicity and a business.
Mm,
Um, I'm trying to imagine that somebody is a business and you have a toxic maybe partner in business. I know you did mention some of this before, but I wanted to sort of reaffirm some of them for us.
okay.
What are the red flags? Those things that you notice, you say, okay, yeah, I need to pay attention. I need to pay attention. Please share with us.
Okay. So just to recap the traits that I already mentioned, but I think are quite key. If you realize that you are not able to have a reasonable discussion or conversation because this person is hypersensitive to any sort of criticism, even if you try and present it in a nice, friendly way, they just cannot accept that an idea of theirs or an action wasn't quite right or was completely wrong, perhaps. So you find it difficult to communicate with them. And their response to you attempting to deal with an issue will either be an explosive one, they will become very angry, very verbally abusive, or the opposite, you get the silent treatment. So that difficulty in communication, and it's chronic. It happens every time you attempt to have this conversation to sort some stuff out. Um, they want to take the credit for success. They want to be the figurehead, even if they're not the head of the company. They are trying to take the credit. Um, it's all about them. They want to be the most important person. They will turn conversations around so that it becomes about them. They might start off with a question or with apparently talking about you, but very quickly you realize it comes back to them. They have a victim mentality. They may have a history of relationships or personal or business in which they have always been the victim. Other people have always done wrong to them. So that's something to watch out for. Telling lies. They don't hesitate about denying something outright or lying about something in order to manipulate or in order to keep face. And this keeping face, this public persona is all important to them. So it really matters what the outside world think about them. And they will do anything to protect their public image. Let me just remind myself, triangulation, this is a technique that is often used. And triangulation refers to them bringing you and another person into a difficult communication relationship. So they will set you against another person, or they will set another person against you, and they will withdraw. So, in fact, it's a bit like a sport, a spectator sport for them. They will watch as you and this other person then have some communication problems or some business problems because they have said something to you, they have said something to the other person, and then they exit and leave you with this conflict. Um, I'll just have another look at my list. lack of accountability. So they won't take responsibility. If they got something wrong, they won't hold their hand up. They won't admit it. And there is a lack of true empathy, of sincere connections. So this can take a while to spot, or it may be evident from the get-go. But a sign may be that they don't have long-standing relationships outside of the business or in business. They tend not to have friends or business partners from way back, like most of us do. But a narcissist will probably have a trail of failed business relationships, failed personal relationships, no long-standing friendships. So that can also be a clue.
Thank you so much for that. I believe that the audience that are listening to us, they are having a lot of value here, and they appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the time. Now, the people that are listening to us, they want to be able to connect to you. Maybe they want to buy your book. Maybe they want to work with you. They are looking, they're asking you, how can they reach out to you? So what is your response?
Okay, so I guess the easiest way is to go to my website, notjustcoaching.com. So notjustcoaching.com, and there they can reach out to me. They can find my social media profiles. So I'm very active on LinkedIn, which I think is where you and I met, Obehi.
Absolutely.
So yeah, great platform for professionals to hang out, and I'm always up for a coffee chat with people if they just want to gently explore what my work is about, and find some sort of synergy, because I think I'm not just out there looking for new clients, although I always welcome new clients. I'm also really interested in connecting with people and being able to connect with their audiences and speak to their people. And I'm a great fan of finding win-win partnerships and relationships, collaborations. So either on LinkedIn, my profile, and hopefully you'll be able to pop links to my website and my LinkedIn profile under the podcast. And if not, notjustcoaching.com is a one-stop shop.
Thank you so much for that. I like that. Notjustcoaching.com. That is very fantastic. That is a good name.
Thank you. Well, it sums up, what I do. I'm a life coach, but primarily a clinical hypnotherapist.
Thank you for that. And that is what we talked about today at length. Now, what would be your final thought, considering what you have discussed today about a toxic relationship in a business environment, and of course, everything that we discussed today relating to that, hypnotherapist, and all the things that are actually related to this conversation. So how would you like to conclude it? Maybe a message, or maybe something that you wanted to say I did not ask you. Please go ahead.
Okay. I think the overriding tip that I would share that we don't do enough of is something I've already mentioned, and that is trust your gut feeling. Whether we're talking about a personal relationship, a business relationship, an idea, a plan, a goal, check in with yourself. How does it feel? How does it sit? And be guided by your gut feeling and by your heart feeling. I'd like that to be my parting tip.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That is beautiful. I really did enjoy the conversation. Honestly,
me
I
too.
do.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Obehi. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.